Hello, Bible readers. Genesis 26 is the only primary material we have concerning just Isaac. In other spots in Genesis, Isaac is used to introduce the Jacob stories, and of course, he's an essential character when Abraham is told to sacrifice his son Isaac. But chapter 26 is Isaac's chapter to shine. Yeah, he shines pretty glittering in gold, actually. Essentially, Isaac serves as a transition from Abraham to Jacob, but we're going to spend one day on this one chapter that does speak to kind of a theology of blessing that we come to know through becoming more acquainted with Isaac, through these few kind of, well, like Brueggemann calls them, he says this chapter is made up of odd assortment of materials. Whatever unity they have appears to be secondary. We read in this odd assortment of materials a restatement of the promise in the first 5 verses made to Isaac. Then another example of this whole she's not my wife really, she's my sister kind of story that we get twice in the stories of Abraham. Then we read about water hunting, and I mean, just think how out of control you can't just know where that's going to be. And so this is something Isaac has to find by faith, you could say. But we also see how that brings him into conflict, Isaac into conflict with the Philistines, and how that gets resolved, which it does. Then the conclusion reiterates the blessing that we heard in the first 5 verses as he signs a treaty with the Philistine, Abimelech. None of it's especially revelatory. It's not like there's a big takeaway. As Isaac is basically remembered as the precious son of a great father and then a tricked father from a scheming son or of a scheming son. But there's an important and distinctive theological perspective the life of Isaac offers us. It's a perspective, or Brueggemann would call it a worldview, that is not shared by all of Scripture for sure. But it does appear, this perspective does appear from time to time. In the Psalms, we'll see it, and I'll explain what it is in just a second. We see it in Job, to name a couple of places. Here's what it is. The Isaac narrative, short as it is, invites us to consider a world teeming with generously given life. Instead of seeing everything as like just scarcity and how do we get just a little, this is the kind of story that would show there's actually a lot. We can resonate, I think, with this, living in a really abundantly rich place of the world and time in history. To look around and see abundance doesn't require a big stretch for us. The Isaac narrative's theological perspective, then, is that abundant life is a blessing to those who will receive it and share it. Both. It's not just a blessing to receive it. It's not just a blessing to share it. It's a blessing to those who receive it and share it. Brueggemann says the chapter presents a worldview in which affirmation of the world, because it's abundant, and gratitude of God, recognizing that abundance comes from God, are held together. Other parts of Scripture might hold contempt for the world, whether it's abundant or not, because of how unequal everything is. Other parts of Scripture, at the same time as holding contempt for the world, might also hold gratitude for God's more true kind of abundance offered in other ways. But Isaac's story shows us that it's possible to just be blessed, materially even, and still be able to be faithful. They're not mutually exclusive things. It's not like to be faithful, you have to have nothing. I guess that's my point. It's a theology of blessing that does not require the recipient to forsake abundance, to get rid of their abundance. Accept it and be generous with it and be grateful for it. That's the perspective offered here. I mean, it's not like completely foreign to our experience, right? We have a lot. Be generous with it and know where it came from. God. The picture of Isaac in chapter 26 looks a lot like how Psalm 37 sounds. Trust in the Lord and do good, so you will dwell in the land and enjoy security, Psalm 37 says. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. That's Isaac's experience. That's the worldview offered here. And actually, there isn't even much said of how much Isaac actually does trust God as a condition for blessings. In chapter 26, really, the gifts are simply given. Verse 3 is where God tells Isaac, reside in the land and I will bless you. And by verse 28, we hear Abimelech confirm that that's how it went down. He says, we see plainly that the Lord has been with you. You are now the blessed of the Lord. The crucial moment in the whole chapter for us to take away is in verse 32 when Isaac is told, we have found water. This is the decisive moment showing that Isaac is indeed blessed. And what this story means by blessed, and this is the thing to take away from this chapter, what this story means by blessed is not only that God is with him in some abstract way. Blessed here is a theological claim coupled with worldly results. Like, yeah, God is with you, and that means you found water. Blessing becomes concrete with Isaac. That faithfulness leads to worldly good fortune can become a dangerous expectation, though, right? Almost like we can test God, like, I'm being faithful, where's my stuff? Where's the concrete? That can oftentimes pollute a human's relationship with God. So this is one of those worldviews that is true for many, maybe for all in ways that we understand and don't understand, but it would seem that it's not always the case, right? Because as we know, God gets to be God because of or in spite of our actions. In the end, what God chooses to do is all grace. Tomorrow, chapter 27, speaking of blessings, Esau loses his. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.